I'm Jamie Miller. It is the Friday of dessert week, and I have a confession to make. I am not a dessert girl. I like eating dessert, I like serving dessert, but I have really never experimented with dessert. I have always saved my creative energy for the savory side of life. But then this week came along, and I started feeling sorry for myself because if I don't get picked as a finalist for an entree, I have nothing to look forward to, and it's a whole nother year before I can try again. So I said to myself, get your butt in the kitchen and start thinking on the sweet side of life. So I did. And what I came up with is a chocolate-covered cherry Napoleon. And I came about this by thinking about a couple flavors that I really like together in desserts, and cherry and chocolate has been a favorite since I was a little kid. I remember my mom buying those little chocolate covered cherries that had kind of that white creamy filling and a maraschino cherry in the center. Oh my gosh, so good. And she also used to always make the Jell-O no-bake cheesecake and just dump a big old can of that cherry pie filling on top. So simple, but we ate it right up. So that is where I came up with my idea. Cherries, chocolate, cheesecake, and I'm gonna do a Napoleon. So I'm starting out with one sheet of puff pastry, which conveniently is left over from appetizer week. And all I'm gonna do is cut it in thirds along the perforations, and then I am gonna cut it again in thirds crosswise. So I am going to get 9 Napoleons out of this. And all I want to do, for starters, is to pop these in the oven. So I'm going to put them on a sheet pan that I've lined with parchment. And I'm going to poke them with holes with a fork. And then I'm just going to pop in the oven and cook them for about 15 minutes or until they're golden brown. So I will get that started and then we'll meet you right back here. My puff pastry squares are out of the oven, they're golden brown, and I'm just going to let those cool, and when they get all the way cool, I'm going to take each one and just split it in half horizontally so I have 2 separate layers to build our Napoleons. So let's make the filling. Now I'm starting out with an 8-ounce package of my Philadelphia cream cheese, and to that I'm going to add about a 1/3 cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to add a teaspoon of almond extract. Now you could use vanilla if you want, but I love the almond and cherry flavor together, so I'm going to go with almond. A teaspoon of that. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. And then I'm going to add a 1.5 tablespoons of kirsch. And kirsch is basically a cherry flavored brandy, and if you ever make fondue, you might have some on hand because it's often found in fondue. But if you don't have it or don't want to use it, you could substitute some of the juice from some maraschino cherries, and we are going to use some of those for our garnish, so you'll have it on hand anyway. Or you could skip it entirely. It's not going to affect the flavor that much. But I've got some because I do like to make fondue. So I'm going to add the kirsch. 1.5 tablespoons is all I want here. And of course, if you're making it for the kids, you might want to substitute the maraschino cherry liqueur. And then I'm just going to beat that all up with my hand mixer until it's nice and fluffy. And then in my other bowl, I'm also going to beat a cup of heavy whipping cream until peaks form. So I'll go ahead and get all my noisy whipping started, and I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so my cream cheese mixture is nice and fluffy, and my whipping cream is whipped. So I just want to save a little bit of my whipping cream, maybe like 1/2 cup, to use as a garnish when we're all done with our Napoleons. But the rest is going to get folded into that cream cheese mixture. So I'm going to do it in about 3 additions, very gently, because we want to maintain as much fluffiness as we can. So I'm kind of making a little cream cheese mousse, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep gently folding this in until I've used up all my whipping cream. And then I'm going to go and just pop it into the refrigerator while we make 2 components of our dessert. Oh, this is going to be so fluffy and yummy. All right, I've got a couple more pieces to my Napoleon puzzle. I need to make my cherry filling, and what I've got here is a ½ cup of cherry preserves, and I just tossed it in the microwave for about a minute to get them really nice and melted. And to that, I'm going to add a package of frozen, thawed, sweet, dark cherries, and I've chopped them up just real roughly. And I'm going to go, it's a 16-ounce package. I'm just going to toss them in with my preserves and stir that around till they're all nice and coated. This is going to give us our sweet, tart, delicious cherry filling. And then I need to make a little chocolate ganache, which is just going to go over the top of my Napoleon. So I've got a ½ cup of whipping cream on my burner. And I just want to bring that up to a boil. And then I've got 4 ounces of bittersweet or semi-sweet, good quality chocolate, like your Baker's semi-sweet or bittersweet chocolate. Either one would be fine. You want to chop it up, put it in a medium-sized boil, and then when that whipping cream just comes to a boil, I'm going to take it off the heat, pour it in. I'm going to let it sit for about 30 seconds to start that chocolate melting, and then I'm just going to whisk it up so it's a nice, smooth chocolate ganache. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for a sec. I'm going to whisk it together, and then I'm going to add 2 things. I'm going to add a little more of our almond extract, about a ½ teaspoon, and a little more of my kirsch, just about a ½ tablespoon, not very much. And again, if you want to substitute the maraschino cherry liqueur, that's fine. So I just want to whisk that up. It'll be nice and smooth and silky, and it's going to make a beautiful little drizzle over my Napoleons. And then I've just got one last thing I'm going to do, just for fun. As soon as this is all set and ready to go, I'm going to take some maraschino cherries. I've got 9 of them because I'm making 9 Napoleons. And I'm just going to dip them in and give them a little bit of a chocolate coating for our garnish. So I will get that all taken care of, and we will wrap this up by assembling the Napoleons. All right, ladies, time to build my Napoleon. I've got my pastry crust separated into 2 parts, and I'm going to add, first of all, that yummy cream cheese mousse. A nice big dollop of that right in the center. And on top of that, I've got my cherries. Again, that was my dark sweet cherries with some cherry preserves. A big spoonful of those. Oh, beautiful. I'm going to plop on the top of my Napoleon. I'm going to drizzle on some of my chocolate ganache. Make it beautiful. This is going to look so fancy that it was so easy. I think we need a couple scoops of that. Oh, yeah. All right. And then I saved out a little bit of that whipping cream. A little tiny dollop up on top. And last but not least, one of my chocolate dipped cherries. And there we have it. My chocolate covered cherry Napoleon. It almost looks too good to eat, but dig in because I guarantee it's going to be delicious.